All right, this is gonna piss a lot of media buyers and agencies off, but I'm going to say it anyways. If you're hitting a scaling wall right now with your ads and you just can't get them to work, then look, it's not some sort of magic hack in the ad account. It's not some sort of, super sophisticated thing that Mark Zuckerberg's doing to your account to try to extract the money from you and shadow banning you and all this stuff. And here's the thing. It's just because you don't know how to solve bottlenecks and you don't know how to solve the right bottlenecks at the right time. So in today's video, we're gonna break down from A to Z how to scale your ads by solving bottlenecks, because all scaling ads is you identifying what problem to fix at what time and making a plan to fix that problem, i.e. the bottleneck. So you have to look at your funnel stats and be like, okay, given these metrics here, do I scale it, pause it, or kill the campaign? You make that first decision. Then from there, if you are not scaling it, you have to understand why you're not scaling it. So what metric in this funnel is essentially causing me to not be able to scale my ads beyond a certain point? What is the choke point? What's the bottleneck in the actual funnel? What's the thing causing this not to scale? Then you look at that metric, you look at the key metrics that make up that metric, which again, we're gonna get into in a second here, and then you go and you make a plan to solve those specific things. So in today's video, we're gonna break this down. My name's Seech. If you don't know me, I run an ad agency called Sell More Online, and we work with some of the biggest household name companies in the info product space, B2B space. We work with some real estate funds, raising millions of bucks through Facebook ads as well, some SaaS companies, even some local businesses. So if you're here to get your ads to work better, we're gonna help you do that right now in this video. So whether you're a business running ads at 150 bucks a day, $1,000 a day, $5,000 a day, this stuff holds true. Bottleneck analysis is everything, and you better learn how to do it. So the number one killer of ad accounts, and really the whole skill set that media buyers and advertisers have nowadays, is to be able to fix this number one killer in ad accounts, which is essentially there is a leak in the funnel that you cannot spot. You cannot figure out where the bottleneck is. You're confused. You just keep chucking creatives into a broken system, and you're like, all right, if I just throw more ads at the system, it's gonna work. And look, a lot of the times, yes, more ads and better ads does solve the issue and get you better results. But at the same time, you might be chucking ads into a system that has a 30% show rate. It's like, dog, that is not the issue. The ads are not the issue. You're booking a good cost per call on the front end, but nobody's showing up, or the wrong people are showing up, right? Like we have some accounts we step into and they're like, oh, we have a $50 cost per call. We're doing super well. It's like, okay, well, why are you on the call with me in the first place then? And then like, well, our ROAS isn't good. It's like, okay, can we dive into that further? And then you look at their qualified rate and it's like 10%. And you're like, yeah, you're letting everybody book in. That pixel's not conditioned, and you're essentially just getting bad leads through the funnel. There's your problem. That's your bottleneck. That's your choke point. So if you were only going off of cost per call in a scenario like that, you're just gonna keep chucking money into the ads and keep chucking money into the same system. But if you looked at it the way we're about to do here, i.e. running a bottleneck analysis, you would see qualified rate as the issues, and then you drill down to the things that make up qualified rate. So like, how's my pixel conditioning? How's my offer? Is it actually trying to attract people? Is my offer actually attracting the people that I want to attract? So like the affluent demographics that can pay me a lot of money. How is my messaging in the ads? Is it lazy, or is it talking to affluent people as well? Is it really targeted? All this stuff plays into account. So you need to be able to see where the problem lies in your funnel, and we're gonna do some exercises together here in a second. So bottleneck analysis, let's dive right in. So this was a great kind of depiction and visual aid that I got from Jeremy Haynes, who's an awesome guy in this space as well. And basically, you kind of like think of this as like a hose, right? How you have these like hoses when you were a kid, and then you would grab it and kind of like twist it and stuff. And then when you twisted it, like all the water would kind of stop here. So you'd have like this nice flow of water on this side. Then you twist the hose and it only have like a little bit of water kind of coming through here. This essentially is a choke point in, this visual here. But this is kind of how like your funnel operates. So if you have, a bunch of these different metrics in your funnel, and these are good on the front end, and then this one sucks, it's essentially going to affect all the other ones downstream. So like these, say this was your show rate. Obviously your show rate then will affect how many closed deals you get. It's gonna affect your ROAS, right? So whatever metric is essentially top of funnel will also affect things downstream. Just keep that in mind. So when you launch split tests in your funnel or in your ads that are more top of funnel, it essentially could impact everything downstream. So like say for example, down the line, when we're talking about this later, you determine that you need to solve for click-through rate, which is a top of funnel metric, by basically making better ads and changing up the actual messaging in your ads. Well, guess what? That could also affect everything else downstream. The messaging that you change in your ad could affect things like the application rate in the funnel the book call rate. It could also affect show rate, close rate, average sales price, and of course like ROAS, right? So just keep that in mind. I just wanted to make that clear to you guys and kind of give you that visual before we dive in, so you know when you're looking at your own funnels that if I change something top of funnel, it could also affect everything else downstream. So we're gonna go over a VSL call funnel because a lot of you guys watching this are essentially running that type of funnel. If you have some other funnel that you'd want me to make a video around for bottleneck analysis, please comment it down below, like if it's a webinar funnel, challenge funnel, whatever. But anyways, most of you guys are running like a VSL call funnel, so that's what we're gonna dive into today. So whenever you launch ads, okay, there's one of two things that could occur. You essentially could have a winning ad or campaign that scales. And in that case, guess what you're doing? You're just scaling it up until it fatigues out. Once it fatigues out, you create a refresh. So you duplicate the campaign out, pull the old ads out, put some new ones in, and basically let it ride. Or you essentially launch ads and they lose, right? They don't perform well. And in that case, that's where you're gonna run a bottleneck analysis. So a bottleneck analysis is basically where you gather whatever time frame of data, but usually I like to look on a 7 to 30 day window of the key statistics that make up that funnel. So we don't dive into the super small sub metrics like the thumb stop rate, hook rate, retention rate, all that stuff initially. We will if we determine that, for example, the ads are the main bottleneck. So we need to drill into the ads further. But what we do is we start with stuff like our click-through rate. So this we do unique. Then we'll do our CPMs. Then we'll do our application rate, which this is qualified, by the way. Then we'll do our book call rate. Then we'll do our show rate, qualified rate, close rate, average sales price, so average cash collected, and then we'll have ROAS. So these are all the essentially metrics that make up a VSL call funnel, right? And they're the key metrics. So what we do is we're gonna go and gather the statistics into a spreadsheet. And by the way, we do this for all of our clients on a weekly basis. So we have like a rolling spreadsheet for every single client because we make data-driven decisions here in our agency. And if you want us to run your ads completely done for you, there's a link down in the description below that talks about our sprint offer, where essentially we will either set up your full ad system from A to Z, so the front end and the back end, all the ads, the VSL, the funnel, the copy, all the back end email flows, content remarketing, every single thing you need to make ads work in 14 days. And then I run them in your account, not somebody else, for 30 days. Or if you're currently running ads, we CRO absolutely everything. We run this sort of analysis and change up everything we need in the first 14 days and then run the ads for you for 30 days. After that engagement, we can hand it off to you for no fee if you want to run it yourself, or you can roll into consulting or roll into done for you services, whatever works for you. But if you want more details on that, links down in the description. So anyways, what we do here is we essentially gather this data here. Again, 7 to 30 days is what we usually pull, or ideally you have it on a rolling basis, again, like we do for our clients. And we're essentially just going to write down the metrics, right, for each of these. And again, these are the key metrics that make up this funnel type. So if it's a webinar funnel, it's gonna look a little bit different. You'll have like opt-in rate, webinar show rate, retention rate to the offer, book call rate if you're doing like a book a call from a webinar, or checkout rate if you're doing direct to checkout, stuff like that. But let's say, for example, you know, this is 1.72%, CPMs are $85, application rate qualified. So these are the amount of qualified applications that were submitted against the unique page visitors. And let's say that this was 1.3%. Then the book call rate, this is the amount of people that actually booked in a call that were qualified against the unique page visitors. Let's say this is 1.1%. Show rate, let's say, was 63%. Qualified rate, let's say, was 71%. Close rate, let's say, was 17%. Our average sales price, let's call it 4.5K. And let's say that our full ticket price was 5K, right? So if we're selling a program, the cost of our program is 5K, but over this period of time, we collected on average per closed deal 4.5K. And let's say that our ROAS is 3.2. Now, what would you do in this scenario? I hope you said scale this motherfucker up because you are at a 3.2x ROAS. So here's the thing. When you're running bottleneck analysis, ROAS trumps everything. So if your ROAS is strong, then guess what? Scale that thing up, and you can launch small incremental split tests along the way. Like in this case here, let's say that our ROAS was, 1.3x. Then it's like, all right, we're not really that profitable. Now we can launch big split tests. So now let's actually dive into the metrics and find what we need to solve. So click-through rate, sure, like we want to be at 2% plus, but 1.72% is not horrible. We're targeting maybe a tight niche in this space. So like, we don't really care if the click-through rate's like super, super, super low. Our CPMs are $85. $25, okay. Our application rate, that's pretty low. Like we usually want this to be anywhere between 3.5% and 7%, the qualified application rate. Book call rate, same thing. We want this to be more towards that 3% to 6.5% rate. Show rate, all right, a little bit low. You know, we want it to be like 70% plus ideally. Qualified rate, you know, we like this to be 75% plus. And these are the amount of basically people that showed up to calls that were qualified. So like SQLs basically. And then close rate, and a great metric too, by the way, that I like to do is take the unique page visitors against the actual qualified calls that showed up. That's a great rate too, because you want to essentially see how close this metric is to this metric here, or this metric to this metric. So great thing to do for some of you advanced media buyers out there. But anyways, you know, close rate, like, all right, 17% through cold traffic, fair. Average sales price, you know, usually we sling these things for 5K, but we're closing them at 4.5K. That's not that far off. That means we're not really doing that many payment plans. So that's very fair. But our ROAS is low. So what is the choke point in this funnel? Well, guess what? It is here and here. And application rate makes up book call rate. So what we're going to do is we're essentially going to drill down on the application rate. So we're going to look at the metrics that make up application rate. So what makes up app rate? Well, it could be a lot of different factors. It could be the actual positioning of the offer, right? Is the offer something that people actually want? Is there congruency with the ads to the funnel or not, right? Am I talking about like fixing show rates in the ads, and then when they get on the funnel, I talk about fixing close rates or something? How is my page load speed? Are people actually like starting my type form? Is the UI of the type form or whatever application I'm using good? You could also, with something like type form, look at the drop off of questions to see, all right, is there some question that people just keep dropping off on, so we can maybe remove that question or change up the verbiage? Or what I like doing is if you ask a very sensitive question like revenue in an application, you know, so if you're like the title is like, what's your annual revenue? What I like to do is, so right below the actual title of that question, justify why I'm asking that question. People just want to see a reason why, and they'll actually answer in a more genuine manner. Because whenever I see something like, what's your annual revenue? It's like, I know you're just trying to see how much money I make so you can pitch me a higher price, buddy. I'm gonna lie on this. So just keep that in mind. Could also be another thing like traffic quality. So what standard event am I optimizing around? Am I conditioning the pixel properly? Am I using the conversion API to feed actual good, clean data from my CRM back into the ad account? Am I running some stupid thing like a link click campaign or a traffic campaign? Like, please don't do that. Like, right, so stuff like this can also impact the application rate because of the quality of the traffic actually going to the page and the quality of the traffic that Meta is targeting and the way that the traffic or prospects are framed in the ads when they land on the page can really impact application rate, especially when you have a high click-through rate and a low application rate. That means people are getting onto the page and bouncing, whether it's some sort of design element, it's not congruent with the ads, the headline's not clear, the page is loading slow. Again, there's incongruency, they're not framed properly when they get on the page, the user experience isn't good, right? All these things is what you have to look at. So once we identify that application rate is the issue, then we sit there and we list out all the things that could impact our application rate. So like copy on the page, design is all stuff too that can fit into this bucket and category. The actual questions we're asking in the type form, the software we're using, stuff like that. So then we just write down everything that could impact application rate, and then we go and we look at all these things. So it's like, all right, what's our positioning? All right, no, our positioning's good. We haven't really changed anything on that. Okay. The ads are congruent with the funnel. All right, the page load speed's fine. Okay, cool. The type form and the UI looks good. Like, oh, but interesting. Question 2 has a 80% drop off. Let's try to change the wording of question 2, or just remove it entirely if it's not being utilized in our sales process or utilized as a filtration mechanism. And then let's run that as a test for 3 to 4 days and see if that unlocks this bottleneck. So see what we're doing here? We're essentially looking at the main key metrics of our full funnel that are essentially jacked up and picking the one that is the easiest to solve for right now with the least amount of time, effort, money, and resources. What is the easiest thing to 2 to 4x at any given point, right? Like we can sit there and drill down on this application rate here. And if we get this thing up to a 4%, I mean, that's huge scale. That's more than double the amount of people that book calls, more than double the amount of people that show up to calls, and more than double the amount of people that close deals. So again, we're looking at these main metrics here, and then we're sitting there writing down all the things that could affect that main metric. And then we're gonna go actually look at, in this case, the funnel, the application, and everything at this step of the funnel and find where the choke point is. So we're gonna drill down to these sub things that make up the application rate, and then we're gonna make a plan just like we did here, where we're like, okay, cool, we can make an educated guess that it's something to do with this question number 2, like in this scenario here on the type form. So I'm gonna make a plan for the next 3 to 4 days where we are just going to control that one variable. We're just going to make everything else a constant, and we're just going to remove that question or change that question up drastically in the funnel and see if that unlocks our scale. If that does, awesome, you're back into scaling mode. If that does not, then you go back to the drawing board and basically look at the metrics again and try to make another inference off of one of these things if this is still the bottleneck, and try to solve for one of those. And just to note, by the way, say for example, you do fix this application rate, and again, it changes to 4%, that could affect your show rate downstream. Because again, anything that we change top of funnel could also affect things bottom of funnel. So this is why solving bottlenecks is just a game of continuous iterations, and you're continuously solving bottlenecks as a media buyer. That's exactly what you're doing every single day. So you have to learn how to do this. But again, just keep in mind too, if your ROAS is strong and positive, just scale. Like you shouldn't be doing huge bottleneck analysis and massive tests. You can launch like little tests here, like headline changes and split tests, but you shouldn't be launching like a massive update to your funnel and a massive update to your offer and all this stuff when your ROAS is fine. Don't shoot yourself in the foot. Just basically launch small incremental changes that can solve incremental bottlenecks. Like for example, if this was at 3.3%, this was 3.1%, and this was 2.8x on the ROAS point, then guess what I'm doing? I'm just funneling more freaking cash into this funnel because I'm basically at a 3x ROAS. And sure, maybe the next batch of ads that I launch, I'll maybe launch with a stronger kind of CTA and better structure in the actual ads themselves, and maybe a little bit more direct messaging to try to get the click-through rate up. But again, I'm doing that once these ads fatigue here, and I'm not gonna do like a massive change. I'm just gonna change a couple little things in the ads and keep a lot of stuff constant. ROAS trumps everything. Now, just also keep in mind too, if you're looking at these metrics and you're like, all right, if I was at a 2.8x ROAS, I still wouldn't be profitable, then you have some sort of fulfillment issue, some sort of pricing issue, some sort of positioning and quality issue on the types of leads you're actually trying to attract. So that's more of like an offer and business mechanics issue. So make sure to fix that first. So anyways, this is essentially how you just scale your ads continuously. You got to run the bottleneck analysis, find the choke point, and solve for that. And again, if you want us to handle this completely done for you from A to Z, there's a link down in the description below that you can check out our sprint offer where we'll CRO everything or set up all your ads in 14 days, run them for 30 days for you so you get great killer results, and then we'll either run them for you completely done for you after that as well, hand the system off to you, or roll into consulting. And if you want to join our Inner Circle program, which is a consulting and advisory program, it's a month-to-month commitment. There's a link down in the description below for that as well. And now let me give you a real world example of this from one of our clients. So we stepped into an account where they essentially sell like a coaching program for roofing companies who sell to insurance companies. So that's a very key point, keep that in mind. They were getting a $650 plus cost per call, insane. And we dropped this down to $120 cost per call, and the video is on this page as well, in just over a week. And basically what I did was, right, I stepped into the account, and the first thing that I assumed was, all right, it's definitely the creatives or the funnel. It's one of these things. The creatives were just a bunch of like cheap statics thrown together. They looked like garbage. There was barely any videos in the account. And also the funnel was this like weird funnel that was built on HubSpot. It had no mobile optimization. If you've built on HubSpot, you know what I mean. You can't actually mobile optimize right now the way that they have it. And also they had a, which I hate, you know, they had a VSL here that essentially had exposed questions. So I hate whenever you just have a list of like 9 questions embedded on the page. They basically had like a GHL application and calendar embed or something like that. They just threw it in there and you could see every single question. They were all exposed. I love Typeform because it's question by question. Also, the VSL was like 2 minutes long, gave no context. The headline was some garbage income claim that didn't talk about their system at all and what they do. No video thumbnail, no actual case studies on the page, no FAQs, no context, nothing. So I was like, all right, it's going to be the ads of the funnel. But again, I wanted to actually just run the stats and do an actual bottleneck analysis like this to see, am I right? I want the data to tell me. So I don't just step into an account and start like nuking everything because maybe I was wrong. Maybe it's the show rate. Maybe everything's sick on the front end and qualified rate's awesome, but it's the show rate that's the issue. So we ran the bottleneck analysis, and lo and behold, it was the application rate and the book rate was the issue. So we went immediately to the actual funnel, CRO'd the entire funnel. We redid the VSL, redid all the copy, made the design look super clean, modern, moved platforms, and like a really nice design funnel does still build trust with the prospects. A lot of people say, oh, simple funnels work. And yeah, they can work, but they still better freaking look good and the copy better be good. They better not look like a scam. Theirs looked like a scam. So we totally changed it up, added the Typeform Calendly combo. They also were doing no pixel conditioning conditioning whatsoever, so we employed that as well. And they were also optimizing around some weird custom conversion event. We switched to the standard event, and now we're feeding data through the conversion API as well, just to feed really clean data from the CRM into the account. So like we found that that was the choke point, and we just CRO'd the whole funnel. Then after that, 2 weeks later, we found out that qualified rate started to drop. So we got a lot more volume through the system with the lower cost per call, but we had to now optimize around quality. So in their case, they help roofers that do 5+ insurance jobs per month. They have to be in business for 1+ years. And also they have to be using the software called Xactimate. So these were all 3 things that we needed to essentially raise up quality. So all we did was we went back to the drawing board on the scripts, and we added these things into the call out, or added these things in as banners on 4x5s. We added these things into the static ads that we ran, and we just changed up the messaging in the ads, and also added it to the funnel and added some questions there to screen out people that do not fit these characteristics in the application. And that fixed qualified rate and drove up the ROAS to a 6x plus for a few weeks, and it's sustained at about a 4.5 to 5x ROAS on cash collected. And they have a lot of payment plans. That's cash collected, not including the LTV. The LTV ROAS would be way higher, but it drove that up in just a few weeks. So as you can see, it started with us pulling the stats. We identified that the application rate was the issue, so we fixed that. That fixed the app rate, fixed the book call rate, got us a better cost per call, but then we needed to raise the quality up because the qualified rate became the next bottleneck. So then we fixed the quality by having better messaging in our ads, change up the copy in the funnel, and also conditioning around these qualities in the application. So Meta will go find more people that fit these qualities as well. And if you just want to keep learning, hang out here on the channel. There's a lot more videos that you can check out. Peace.